Hey guys, it's Bailey and welcome back to the channel for what's going to be a review of an almost complete collection of the Maybelline Color Tattoo Eye Chromes. Here I have 9 shades and I thought I found a complete display in Walgreens. Was it Walgreens? Yes, it was Walgreens. Went to a Walgreens, saw a complete display, thought I snatched up all the colors, and when I just went to look up the information for like pricing and availability, things like that online, saw that there are 10. So I think I am missing the silver in all the shades that I have, but it's going to be a nearly complete review of every shade within the brand new Maybelline Color Tattoo Eye Chrome collection. Obviously, my interest was piqued, as I think a lot of other people's were, with this collection, because Maybelline is known for their incredibly durable, ultra long lasting color tattoo, color tattoo, basically their cream eyeshadow line, and then they recently launched, I believe it was last fall or winter, a eye crayon line, which is equally as long lasting and pretty pigmented. I reviewed those a while back, and so had to give these a go. So with that, let's get into it. For starters, these guys retail for about $9.99 a piece, depending on where you find them. In general, I find that's a little high for the drugstore, but at the same time, it's not absolutely going to break the bank. But regardless of how I feel or how you feel after watching this video, highly recommend you go ahead and look for deals, just because they are so easy to find in the drugstore or Ulta or wherever you happen to find these. Coupons, buy one get one half off, waiting for a sale, things like that is totally doable. Highly recommend it. So let's get more into the shades. Like I mentioned before, I have 9 shades from this line. The one shade that I'm missing is Silver Spark. So the lineup of swatches you see here, that is what is missing, but beyond that, all are present and accounted for. I have to say, this is probably going to be a relatively short and sweet review because I found a lot of consistency within the line as far as lasting power goes. That all of the formulas here are very similar in texture, relatively thick, not quite mousse-like, but certainly not watery. They definitely apply on in a dollop, and then you can kind of work and spread it out from there. I would say that that slightly differs for the lighter shades, namely the shade Gilded Rose and Beige Luster, and as a result, these tended to be my kind of problem shades, as it were. But as far as lasting power, all of them perform consistently. The only inconsistencies I really found were in texture. So let's talk about these for a sec. Because they have a thinner texture, I found that when I applied them, they just, when I thinned them out across the lid, you know, I'd apply them directly with the doe foot, and then I'd go in with a brush, and I'll get to the brushes and the technique that I like to use to apply these later. I go in with a brush, I blend it out, and the way these sheared out was just so patchy. There's a lot of chunky glitter in pretty much all the shades. Got to be really upfront with you if you're not a fan of shimmer. I mean, as the name suggests, this is not for the matte lover. This whole collection, if you love mattes, steer clear. This is a very shimmery collection, and when the pigment is built up, it definitely appears metallic and very chrome-like. However, sheared out, some of the shades look glittery, like the one you see on my eye right now has been sheared out, and you still get a nice dark opaque base, but you also see a lot of that shimmer shine through. That, for reference, is Fool's Gold that I'm wearing right now. But when it comes to the lighter shades, they have that thinner consistency, and so when it comes to shearing out, they just get really patchy. Like, I could definitely see my skin showing through the actual pigment, and I even asked, you know, people I was with, I was like, is this just me? Does this look patchy to you? They confirmed it definitely looked patchy. So just something to be aware of as you are picking these up, especially since I know the lighter shades, namely Beige Luster. This is certainly the one my eye was drawn to because it's a very, you know, kind of deeper, but still wearable shade. Not really deeper, if I'm being honest. It's a taupe. It's a taupe that I feel like a lot of people will gravitate towards, but as a result, I definitely felt the need to point out that this has an inconsistency within the formula, not necessarily the lasting power, but just in the way it applies, how it goes on patchy. But I do have a way to combat that. The other rest of the shades I really found to be consistent in terms of texture. They're relatively thicker, and so you apply them to the eyes and it gives you a little bit more material to work with as you kind of thin it out across the eye. You don't lose that opacity, you don't lose that chrome finish, but at the same time you are still going to see a little bit of that sparkle and shimmer shine through as you do. You can still layer them up though to get more opacity. I just find I have to work harder with the lighter shades. And then as for the wear time, I feel like I've been saying throughout this video, the wear time's consistent, but what is that? So the wear time for me has been all day. These are truly, I mean, true to the color tattoo name, these go on without a base for me in the morning. I apply them at, you know, 8, 9 a.m. and then they don't come off until I want them to come off at the end of the day. They blend really beautifully into each other. I'll show you a clip of me blending two of these shades together so you can kind of see how they apply, how they work together. They work together pretty flawlessly. I didn't feel like I needed a, you know, shade in the crease to help everything, like a powder shade to help everything blend and jive well together. They did so naturally without any of that. So it's a relatively easy medium to work with. However, I do have some tips and tricks if you're experiencing that same patchiness that I mentioned before. So I have 3 brushes that I like to go to for this. You do not need these exact brushes. These are literally, I looked in my brush drawer over here to my right, and these are the shapes of brushes that I knew would kind of help me apply these the way I wanted to. One of which is a City Color CCB 101. Basically, it's a flat shader brush with kind of a tapered, thinner tip. This is great because it allows you to apply that with your doe foot applicator and then go in and pat and disperse that over your eyelid without shearing it out too much. And it has that tapered tip so that you can kind of get in your crease and shear it out there. However, when this brush doesn't do the trick in your crease, I go to a trusty, dusty, fluffy crease brush. This is pretty easy to find. The one that I have is a Sigma Tapered Blending E35, but really, it's an easy shape, relatively easy shape to duplicate. So this is what I find helps super, super well in my crease. And then for the lower lash line, I do find that these are a little bit too thick for such a creamy consistency here. So what I like to do is go in with something that is pretty narrow. Here I have an MUA Professional Smudger Detailer brush, and I like to dab this directly onto the doe foot and then apply that to my lower lash line, which is exactly what I did here today. And between that, those are the 3 shadows that I find I need when applying these. Also, if you're having issues with those thinner, lighter textures over, like across the lid, I just recommend waiting, allow them to kind of thicken up a little bit, like dry a little bit so they get a thicker consistency before you go on spreading them across your lid. That helped a ton when it came to avoiding that patchiness. It's just knowing when's the right time to blend. They're not the easiest shades to work with, and so if you're not looking for a kind of what is somewhat of a fussy eye product, I wouldn't necessarily recommend those for you. However, if you are looking for some really affordable, super pigmented, you know, really fun, because these are shimmery, like I said before, shimmery metallic shadows, these are a great thing to go for without completely breaking the bank. And they last all day. Like I said, they work well, worn without a primer. The one thing I will say, however, is that they don't stay tacky for long. So if you do want to count on these as an eyeshadow base, like a tacky colored primer for your eyeshadow, don't count on these for that because they do dry relatively quickly to a somewhat powdery texture. And so these definitely aren't like a glitter base or an eyeshadow base of any kind, I would say. Eyeshadow does lay nicely over it, but I wouldn't look to these to extend the life of your eyeshadow. Oh, something else that I do feel like needs to be mentioned but doesn't really fit at any point here in the review is that those glittery shades, like the one that I am wearing today, where you can clearly see there's definitive, you know, downright glitter, frankly, they don't have fallout. Like you can see, I'm touching it here, and on my my cheek here, you don't see glitter falling out. So even when you do shear a shade out so that the glitter is a little less embedded in that product, it's not gonna fall out all over your eye area throughout the day. It's still gonna stay firmly on your eyelid, which is perfect. So those are my thoughts on this entire line. I feel like I have just talked your ear off, but there was a lot to talk about with this collection. I really hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you have favorite shades, if you've tried it, if you're having trouble finding it. I really hope you guys aren't. If you are, though, I'm looking at Ulta right now because that's where I was able to find kind of like the entire collection for reference. So if you're in a pinch, you can't find them in your drugstore or on your like new displays in your drugstore, that's a good resource. So go check that out. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you in my next video. Bye guys.